Hi, I want to show you this Anker C1000 version 2 that I'm testing in case this is something you're interested in getting. I'm out here in the sunlight testing it with a 200-watt solar panel to see how it's going to do. This is my favorite way to charge these things. I bought this myself and I've reviewed a number of power stations over the last few years. So what I want to do in this video is give you a tour of the unit and talk about what it can do. I want to talk about charging and discharging, the app that works with this, and some of my thoughts on this power station. So to start the tour, I'm running a refrigerator, my laptop, and charging another battery through the high-powered USB-C ports. But just to start, in case you don't know what this is a battery unit. There's a battery inside of here, and it can output AC and DC power. So this is great for any kind of situation where you need portable power or power outage, or you're camping or something like that. This has very powerful AC output, and it can run a full-size refrigerator like it is back here, and at the same time run laptops and etc. So the AC output on here can do 3,000 watts peak power and 2,000 watts continuous power. So the peak power matters for things like refrigerators, or over here is an upright freezer, things that have compressors inside of them, because they need a lot of power to get started and not so much power to run. So having 3,000 watts peak power means it's going to be able to start pretty much anything in your house that has a compressor. So a refrigerator or an upright freezer, no problem for this guy. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these ports. I really like that. And you can don't have to worry about like things getting in the way because there's a lot of space in between these. Now if we go up to here, so this kind of bugs me with other power stations where this one is more of a solution, is because there are more USB-C ports than USB-A ports. There's one USB-A. There's so many of these that come out, and if you watch any of my other videos, you know I kind of complain about this, is that why aren't there more USB-C ports on these portable power stations? So this one has 3 of them, and 2 of them are at a very high rate, 140 watts of output. Now these 2 cables that I have here are rated for 140 watts. You have to make sure that your USB-C cables match the rating, but I can do that. And so if I plug this in right here and I zoom into the screen, you can see the screen changes. Now I'm running the refrigerator, so let's do this. Let's turn this off. So that button will turn off the AC. And if we go back to the screen, we'll see only the output of this USB-C. And so you're never going to get really the maximum number exactly, but that says 134, 135 watts. So that's what you would expect from a port labeled 140 watts of USB-C. So you have the right cable and these high-powered USB-C outputs on this device. And so you've got this one, and then this one is 15 watts, and then you have your one USB-A. This screen is really cool, and it's a bit unique, I would say, from any others that I've seen, because this is more like a TV screen, because they can show whatever they want on here. You can see state of charge, the output wattage. Let's turn the refrigerator back on. So I turned on the AC. So you can see there, 60 hertz, the AC came on. It also has this little animation here to show sort of how much energy is left in the tank. And then we have our output expectations. So this can run this amount of power output for 2.3 hours, or about 2 hours, at 71% state of charge. What I can do though is push this button. So this has total input. We're not inputting anything right now. It'll go back to this default screen. And then if I push it again, I get even more information here. Total output, 339 watts. And I can look at the individual ports. So I actually didn't need to turn that off to see the number. I can go here and see, okay, the refrigerator is using about 200 watts, and the USB-C port is using about 140 watts. And so if I plug in my laptop, and then I go back to this screen, you can see it recognized it, changes the animation. When you plug in a solar panel, it has a little solar animation. And so if we go down here, you can see this one now outputting about 50 watts. It even has a screensaver that you can change in the app. Like for example, here's the app, smartphone app, and I can change it to clock style so that when it's sitting there for a while, I can like look at the time. You can even change the brightness of the screen when it's in screensaver mode. If we go on this side, down here, there is a 12-volt DC port. So it has this little dust cover on it. So you're probably familiar with one of these. You can use this for, particularly I would use this for running one of those portable refrigerators, portable coolers, nothing back here, and you can see the handles on either side. And if we come in on this side of the power station, we can look at our inputs. Here's where you're going to plug in your wall AC, and they give you a pretty thick cable that comes with it. And then here is where your DC input is going to be. So this is going to be solar panels or a car charger. And the car charger with the XT60 output comes with the power station. And with that plugged in, you can see the input and output wattages. Input 100 watts, output 53 watts. That's still running the refrigerator. And they have the different colors, green for input and then blue for output. But you can charge up to 600 watts of solar power. I'll get into that in a little bit. But this is a very common connector. This is called an XT60 connector. And one thing I like about the Anker SOLIX power stations is that they don't have little doors on top of this. There's nothing that's going to like break off or get in the way. So I find that very helpful. And on the four corners, you have these silicone covers. Now let's find out how much this weighs. I'm using my scale powered by the AC inverter itself. So I put this on here. I'm going to take a look at this. This is coming in at 25 pounds and 3 ounces or so. And this is one of the lightest 1 kilowatt hour power stations that is out there. It's even smaller than its predecessor, the C1000. This is the generation 2. So it's pretty awesome how they got it smaller. It weighs less, it charges faster, it's got more powerful USB-C ports. The battery inside of here, the chemistry is lithium iron phosphate. If you've heard of that, it's LFP is what it's sometimes called. Those batteries, that chemistry lasts a very long time. So for example, the way that they rate these kinds of batteries inside of here is down to 80% of its original capacity. So how many times can you go from 100% down to 0% back up to 100%? That's called a cycle. And so if you look online, you'll see that this one is rated for 4,000 cycles down to 80% of its original capacity. So what that means is it's going to last a really, really long time. All right, now let's talk about charging the batteries. I'm going to start with solar power because I think it's just so cool that it just sits out here with the solar panel and charges up the batteries. The C1000 version 2 and the original C1000 have a unique or somewhat unique ability with solar is that they can handle up to 600 watts of solar input. What I have right now is a 200 watt solar panel right there, a portable solar panel that is also from Anker SOLIX, and I'll show you that in a second. Well, let's take a look at the screen. So there's a little bit of shade on the quarter of the solar panel, but it's producing 120 watts of input. And you can see here on the screen, 2.6 hours to get to 100%. So you can get this power station by itself and use different kind of solar panels if you want. Anything that's under 60 volts that you can use with this power station, or you can get it with a bundle. And this particular one is the 200 watt Anker SOLIX solar panel. So I'll just show you this real quick while I have it out. But if you want to get this one folds up, has handles, and it has these little adjustments on the back. So you always want to get your solar or the sunlight to hit at a 90-degree angle to get the maximum efficiency. And so you can change this depending on the angle of the sun. And see how I could do that. Just even with one hand, I could change that. And then if that's more at a 90-degree angle of incidence, I'm going to get a higher efficiency out of the solar panel. Now the solar panel is not going to produce very much because you can see there's a little bit of shade right there, and we can see that has a big impact on solar power. And so if we look here, it's inputting 51 watts. But I told you that this can handle up to 600 watts of solar. You can see right there. Now it's very important that you be mindful of this number right here, a maximum of 60 volts. You don't really have to worry about the amps, but you do have to worry about 60 volts. And the way that you get up to 600 watts is you don't plug in a 600 watt solar panel typically, because that might be over 60 volts. What you need to do is you need to get multiple either portable solar panels or rigid solar panels, the ones that have aluminum and glass on the front, your typical solar panel, and you need to put those in parallel, wire them in parallel, and the voltage will generally stay the same and the amperage will go up, but I told you you don't need to worry about amperage. And then that's how you're going to be able to get to that 600 watt maximum. And now let's talk about output, and I want to answer a question that I get often is how long can one of these battery units power, X number of things? So I'm going to make it simple. And even though this has 2,000 watts of continuous output, I'm just going to use the one refrigerator as an example. And if I zoom in on the screen, you can see right here it is using 50 watts. So it has settled in to its temperature. At the beginning of the video, I think I showed it showed about 200 watts. So that was when it sort of peaked out. But you want to use this sort of normal wattage that it's when it's, you know, at temperature and it's keeping it cold. So here's the question. How long can, say, this battery unit last with this refrigerator? So we're taking a guess. So here's how you figure that out. You take the capacity, so it's a 1 kilowatt hour, 1024 watt hours, and you need to subtract off the AC inverter heat loss or the inefficiencies. When I'm doing this calculation, I typically pick 15% if I just want to have a good guess. And then you subtract off 15%, that gives you 870 watt hours. And now you need to divide the watt hours by your loads. And so that your load is everything that's running off these AC ports right here, since we're focused on AC. And if we just take the fridge is using 50 watts, and I got that from the screen, or you can get another meter to figure out what that is. And then if we divide the usable amount of watt hours, the capacity, by the load at 100% state of charge, then we can expect this power station to run this refrigerator at a constant temperature for roughly 17 hours. So if you want to guess at the runtime, you have more things than a refrigerator, add those loads up and then divide by your usable amount of watt hours to get a ballpark guess on how long it will last. All right, now let's do a demonstration on what this can power through the AC ports. I have a kettle here, boil water, and a toaster. Those are resistive loads, so they use a lot of power. I'm still running the refrigerator, and I'm going to turn both of these on. And let's take a look at the wattage. So you're going to watch this jump up and see we're already over 2,000 watts. So let's actually see how long this lasts, because it should go into overload when you run the inverter over its maximum. Usually there's some built-in buffer time, but I'll expect this to stop after some time. It would be encouraging if it lasts longer. So clearly I'm running over 2,000 watts of output. You can see our time to zero has dropped significantly, 0.2 hours. But I am running the fridge, boiling water, and toaster toasting a bagel or something. It's been a few minutes later. It is still running like a champ, over 2,000 watts, over its stated rating. And you can see the percentage is dropping pretty quickly, but these are some pretty big loads on here. So if you were in a power outage situation, I think you'd want to keep your refrigerator running as long as possible. But then you could also make coffee and maybe cook some food with a toaster oven or with an Instant Pot or something like that. So here's an illustration. I'm running a 1,000 watt load. You can use the AC outputs at the same time you're inputting solar power. But you can see I'm inputting about 150 watts, outputting a little over 1,000 watts. And again, you could use this in a power outage scenario if you needed to. So hook up your solar panels to the unit, and then you could use this to basically convert the solar power to AC power to charge your devices in case you didn't have grid power. So this power station is supposed to be the world's fastest charging 1 kilowatt hour power station with a normal plug like this that can do 1,800 watts. So let's plug it in and test it out. I need to turn on a setting in the app before I hit the timer. So we're going to do this. I'm going to do ultra fast charging right here. And so let's start the timer. So I don't know if you noticed, it didn't start at 0%, it started at 1% and started going up. There's protections inside of here that doesn't allow it to go all the way to 0%. So 1% is kind of functionally the 0%. So while that's charging, I want to explain what it says here. It has a little bit of a warning. It says this function can only be turned on when charging. So this is the ultra fast charging. So I'm doing a test right now to see what the speed is. But generally speaking, you don't want to charge this fast or any battery faster than you need to, because it builds up heat inside, and that could take down some of the longevity of the batteries. So whenever you're charging, say, lithium iron phosphate batteries, if you can try to keep heat off of them and charge them slower and it doesn't matter to you, that's generally better. But if you're in a situation where you need to charge it blazing fast, then you turn on this setting right here, and then you don't worry about it. All right, so we've made it to 99%. It's taken 46 minutes so far. Wow, that was really fast. It got to 100% in under 47 minutes in my test here. and they got the Guinness Book of World Records from charging a 1 kWh power station in 49 minutes. So I don't know why I was able to beat that time, but that's really incredible. So if you want ultra fast charging, just turn on that setting in the app and you can get this charged very quickly. Next, in terms of charging, I want to see if it can charge by solar panels and wall AC at the same time. And I like the power stations that prioritize solar input. So right now I have it inputting, I don't know if you can see the screen there, or on my smartphone app, the Anker SOLIX app, I'm inputting 1200 watts of AC approximately, and then there's 0 on the DC input. So let's take this and we'll plug it in here and see how much we get. So this should come online. I really like how this is Wi-Fi enabled and Bluetooth if you're out camping. But you can see right here, it's starting to pull wattage from the solar panel, and it slowed down on the charging. Oh, I guess it reset it. So it's inputting both of these at the same time. So there it is, it's getting back up to 1200 watts, and we'll see. Okay, so yes, it's prioritizing the solar and adding these two up to get up to that 1200 watt charging total. So I really like that you can do both at the same time, but it's going to prioritize the solar panel input over the wall AC input. So if you're wondering where that 1200 watt figure comes from, if we look in the app itself, the maximum recharging power is 1200 watts just on the normal mode. But if we want to lower this down, say I want to lower it to 600 watts and below, is going to be silent charging. So let's do that. Now, because this is under 1200 watts, what's going to happen is that it's going to take the full amount of wall AC and the full amount of solar, because it's under that 1200 watts. So you're going to get the benefit, the maximum of both settings. So in the illustration of that silent charging, you saw that I chose that 600 watt silent charging option in AC, and I'm a little bit over that right here. But here is my microphone. My voice is going to sound further away, but I'm going to put this right on the intake grill. I'm not sure what you can hear. I can barely hear the fans. And when I changed it to that mode, I noticed a significant drop in fan noise when I went down to 600 watts. So now I'm actually doing the AC efficiency test to see what it's going to come up with, see how it's different than that 15%. At least that was my guess. So the way that I run these tests is to run it at a constant load that's 50% of what the continuous AC output is rated for. So this one's rated for 2000 watts continuous power. So I put a 1000 watt load on this AC output here, and we're going to see how it performs. All right, now let's calculate the AC efficiency through the meter. If we go to kilowatt hours, I usually add a 5 because there's not a decimal point there. We don't really know what it is. It's a good average. So 875 divided by the stated capacity, 1024 watt hours, and that equals an 85% AC efficiency, which ironically, my guess at 15% was kind of right on. So the C1000 Gen 2 is one of the very few power stations that has a 10 millisecond switchover time for when there's a grid outage. So basically what that means is it's bringing in AC power and then it's exporting it right here. So I have an LED light here. I'm going to show you this in action. So I'm going to turn this on. It's going to be a very bright light. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate a power outage by pulling out the plug, and we're going to see what happens here on the light. Now we're not going to be able to measure 10 milliseconds because that takes specialized equipment. But here we go, 3, 2, 1. So you saw a little bit of a flicker in the lights, which is obviously what we would expect. There's a little bit of downtime there, but it's switched over to battery power with very quick speed. And if you had something like a CPAP machine or lights or anything else and there was a power outage, you're only going to have that 10 millisecond drop off in power, which is basically imperceptible and great for things like computers or other things that are very sensitive to that level of timing. All right, so now in conclusion, I want to show you some more of the app as well as explain the differences between the original C1000, which I have down here, charging up the newer C1000 version 2, and then my final thoughts on this power station. So here's the app, and a few things that you can do in this app that you couldn't do with the original one. Even though it's the same app, they have different settings. So this one right here, you can change the power usage scenario with the Generation 2. And I don't know if you can see on here, there's a few things. I have it on standard mode, but you can use time of use mode. So it's discharging and charging at certain times based on your electricity prices. There's Storm Guard you can turn on, so it'll charge up if it detects a storm coming. Fast charging plan, you can turn that on too. And there's a few other settings, like I said, because if you take a look at the screen here, this is just a standard blue and white LCD screen, and this one is a full color LCD like your TV, and you can change in the app things like the time, so screensaver, so you can change the clock, and it'd be kind of fun if they have all kinds of other things, like you can put your picture in there or something like that. I assume that's very possible since they can make that show whatever they want. But the app also has all the features that you would expect to be able to change the AC input wattage. You can see what the output ports are doing if things are plugged in. I have something plugged into the AC port right now, and I can even see this from the other side of the world because of the internet, that it's outputting 516 watts, and I could turn this off. So it just turned that AC off remotely, and screen brightness. And the other things you can do, my favorite is to be able to upgrade the firmware with a click of a button. You can see I am up to date. Now, Anker SOLIX did a ton of upgrades between the original and the new one. So this one could do 1800 watts continuous output. This one could do 2000. The capacity is about the same. This one's at 12 or 30 so watt hours more, basically negligible. And this one could do 3,000 cycles down to 80%. They've upped this one with new technology to 4,000 cycles. This one could charge it in 58 minutes to 100%. And this one, like I showed you, blazing fast at around 47, 48, 49 minutes. This one can switch over from grid to battery power within 20 milliseconds. This one can make that UPS standard of 10 milliseconds. This one is 27.6 pounds, and they made this one lighter. Now, this has been one of my favorite power stations to promote. Like, if people didn't know anything about what to get, I would tell them to get this one. And now this one is my new favorite because it's lighter, smaller, and has all those other features. Now, it is missing a few things that may or may not matter to you. It is missing a light, so there's no light on this one. And this one also doesn't have the ability to expand capacity natively, where this one on the other side, there is a port there where you can buy an expansion battery and plug it in and double the capacity here to a little over 2 kilowatt hours. So this one doesn't have that. You can basically do a little bit of a trick and plug an expansion battery in through the XT60 port, but that's a whole nother thing. But natively, you can't plug in an expansion battery. So overall, if you're looking for a portable power station that can run things like your refrigerator and many other things during a power outage, or take it camping and run pretty much anything that you can plug into one of these outlets, then this is a great power station to consider.